What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the Tuesday Track Talk, episode number 32 with your Three Stones pit crew. I'm your tire changer, Cam.
I'm a Jackman Kellen.
And I'm your gas man, Cam.
We got another jam-packed week ahead of us here that kind of got hindered a little bit with the amount of rain that the entire country got this past weekend. So a lot of races got canceled out, but we did get a few in the books. But before we dive into that, what's going on, fellas, since the last time we reconvened with each other?
Waiting for it to warm up and clear up and it to quit raining. Just waiting for it to get nice out again.
I'll say we're kind of getting to that point, especially with our race coming up on Sunday, which we'll talk about here in a bit. We got to keep a little bit of an eye on the radar, hope for some halfway decent weather.
Yeah, well, at least we know this year it won't be 900 degrees and
Oh my God.
98% humidity and the sun scorching down without a breeze.
Yeah, my goodness. That was hot.
Oh, we were all cooked like lobsters last year. It was bad.
Yeah.
It's one thing race fans and race teams can't beat is Mother Nature.
No.
So
This is true.
and even fans, the best you can do on the opposite end of it is when we can't stop the rain, then on the other end of it, the best you can do is prepare for it, the old sunscreen and sunglasses, and walk out of there with some tan lines.
Yep.
To say the least, on the old eyeballs and the old farmer tan, and if
Yeah,
you're lucky, you get it on the thighs too. So
Yeah.
for real.
I got a new bottle of sunscreen ready to go for this year. So
Locked and loaded.
yep. Yep. So well, should we talk about a little bit of racing here?
It's what we do on the weekly. I figure we might as well.
Let's go for it. So obviously I would say I'm a little outnumbered when it comes to the dirt versus asphalt, so we might as well talk about a little bit of dirt here first. Lucas Oil was in action again this weekend. They got going again. They went 2 for 3 on races this weekend. They got rained out on Saturday night, but they did get Friday and Sunday into the books. So let's talk a little bit about Georgetown first. Um, Going into it, we were 10 winners in the last 11 races. We had a couple of appearances this week as well, as we had Ross Chastain and Kyle Larson on the track, and Kyle Busch up in the booth this weekend, which is a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, that was, he did a good job. I was impressed. I mean, he's around the dirt scene a little bit more now, spending a little time at Millbridge with the son doing some racing there. But
Yep.
no, for a guy that's not a booth regular, whether it be in Xfinity or trucks or whatever,
Didn't do half bad.
yeah, he did a good job. I was impressed. He just hopped in there and he had a good call.
And we were texting back and forth during that race too. We were talking about like how much he knew in the booth. He could give a good commentary, but he was learning at the same time while he was up there as well.
For sure.
And then I see that Donnie Allison was also there as a grand marshal as well.
Yeah, he kind of kicked the whole night off, and then it just from there it was just like one superstar after the other.
Yeah. So I think one of the other big things going into it too was obviously early in the week, Hudson O'Neal came out and that he was back with his own team again, running the family car. And obviously it was going to be very interesting to see what he could do with that car this year. And didn't do half bad, came out, was quick time in qualifying, and just kind of never really got through the field out in Georgetown, which is kind of typical for that track though as well.
Yeah, no, solid debut on a new family owned deal, and didn't fall off much.
I thought I don't know if you guys watched the race, that I think we'll touch on later. Last night at Port Royal, and they just asked him, obviously being switching chassis, the Longhorn, and he's had speed, but he hasn't had the results to show for it. And I thought it was an interesting point when they asked him last night, do you get more frustrated that, starting this new team, the expectations that you have for yourself? And I thought he had a pretty good response of just like, the expectations don't change. They expect to show up and win, but they don't get frustrated as quickly as they would, just knowing how much they have to learn with the new chassis and stuff like that. And so I thought that was an interesting response from him. Because obviously when he was in that Rocket One car, the expectation was to show up and be on the podium. But now a new chassis going to Longhorn and family owned team, it'll take him a little bit. And so I thought that was just interesting. I said we won't get frustrated as quickly, knowing how much you have to learn. And I mean, last night, like he said, they need a little speed, so they threw the kitchen sink at it. But no, it'll be interesting to see how his family owned team kind of plays out. With any race team, I think it's going to take them a little bit to figure out the new chassis and what they want. So good looking car too, though.
Yeah.
Black,
Slick.
white, and red. Slick looking car.
Yep. Simple. So.
Yeah, and then he ends up getting a flat running in 12th in that race. He started up P5, so he started up front and just kind of tailed off there in that race.
Yeah.
And I think he did that kind of on Sunday as well. But Kyle Larson, he's been on a little bit of a rough stretch outside of that Cup car as well. He had a rough night as well after having a flat tire in that race.
Well, flat tire question mark. He said he had a flat. They came in. They were going to change it. And the Lucas Oil officials told him no. So the officials had to be there to deem him able to change a tire, and the team said, "Yep, we want it." And the officials said no, and Larson said, "Okay, I'm done." So, I mean, it's a tough call. I don't know what that decision process looks like, but they deemed that he was not allowed to change a tire. So, kind of in a roundabout way, basically got parked. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
So,
Somebody who's been obviously we think he is all world at what he does, but he's somebody who's been struggling on the dirt.
man, the old wing sprint car didn't go so good either.
Yeah,
No.
last week when he had that thing pointed at the sky, and then
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, on Tuesday.
yeah, and then he has this. So in his wing sprint, I mean, he got that win earlier in the year, but outside of that, his wing sprint start of the year has not gone, I would say, as expected. And then he hops in the old late model and stuff like this happens. So
Yeah.
he isn't invincible after all.
No. Yeah.
When it comes down to it, though, obviously there was a race going on. RTJ, he's would you say pick it up right where you left off? Would you say?
Yeah, he picked up where he left off from last year. He did that on Friday night, and then on Sunday night he did the same thing. So
Led pretty much literally all the laps this
he led
weekend.
every single feature lap this weekend for Lucas Oil. Pin to pin, both
89
features.
laps.
89 laps, green flag race, never
Jesus
missed a beat.
criminy, yeah.
So, but to round out your podium, because there were a few other guys on the racetrack. RTJ, Devin Moran, Garrett Alberson, JD, Ross Robinson, Jimmy Owens, Tyler Erb round out the
Plus
top
10.
for Friday night's feature. So,
And I do see it's not on the schedule to talk about the last night's race at Port Royal, but while we're on it, Lucas Oil, the technological gremlins got me last week, but the race preview that I put out was question mark on Garrett Alverson when he was going to get his first win. Garrett Alverson, got to give him a shout out. Kellen's neighbor, 2 races this weekend, 2 podium finishes for that team. So
They're
Knocking on
trying.
the door.
Alverson, yeah, and that smaller team, it's awesome to see him in the old 58 team getting good runs. And he said last night at Port Royal, this is a track that I usually suck at, these big tracks, and he's like, team's got me a fast car. So good to see that. And obviously with as many winners as we've seen in the Lucas Oil series already this year, and Dalton Wilson being a first-time winner, I think Garrett Alverson has got his name in the mix to be the next one, and I think it's going to happen sooner rather than later.
Absolutely.
Local boy, God damn it, he was just up here. Rick Eckert. He had a hell of a night. He went plus 15 on Saturday night, and I know he had a pretty big run on Friday night as well. Yeah, plus 14 on Friday night.
Oh,
So he gained, what is that, 29 positions over the 2 races.
whoa.
So he was a working man between the 2 nights.
Workman Lake weekend.
Yeah, no kidding. So no, otherwise pretty straightforward. You touched on high limit there real quick. Corey Day, first off, he wins midweek, and then he goes hops in Dale Jr.'s late model and wins on the weekend as well.
Yeah. Dude can wheel a race car.
When you got Larson saying that he's a damn good race car driver, you're not too shabby.
No, not at all.
So he'll be a guy to keep an eye out. So,
Yep.
no, otherwise, when it came to the dirt late model scene, that was the only race that went on. Because, like I said, everything else was canceled over the weekend. So,
Rained out.
other than Hunt the Front, that would have been the other ones.
Yep.
So, no, any other thoughts here with Lucas Oil before we move on here?
No, good weekend.
Good weekend. RTJ looks
Yeah.
like he's still got his superpowers, so looks like
Yep.
he's the one to beat.
Yeah, and he's got a 95-point lead in the point standings right now over Jonathan Davenport too. So
Yeah.
cool.
Only takes
So
one.
yeah.
Yep.
So let's move on here. Let's talk about a little stick on the late models, but we'll switch to the asphalt. Let's talk about some super late model racing. The Southern Super Series was back-to-back racing this weekend. They had Blizzard Race number 2 at Five Flag Speedway, and then they had then they were racing at Mobile on Saturday night as well. So let's start with at Five Flag Speedway, where had a couple guys that little tough race there. I think the big one coming out of that was Bubba Pollard wrecking his car and not having a backup coming out of Friday night.
Yeah, it was he had to get together with
Tony Elrod.
Elrod. Yeah, to
Yep.
find a ride for Saturday night. They don't have a backup car. And Cam and I were kind of talking about that. He didn't take a backup with him, but you got to assume he's got that national tour car in the shop that they just were not going to
No, you don't pull
monkey
that one
with.
out of the stable.
Yeah, you pull that
But
out for the Stars Tour.
you
But
gotta remember too, he puked a motor in that car too last time out.
yeah, this is very well true.
I forgot to mention that in the chat down Saturday, but yeah, he
Yeah.
might be down a motor yet still.
Uh-huh. Yeah, dude. E. But
That's 2 words that typically don't go in the same sentence, Pollard and Wall.
Yeah.
yeah.
So anytime Bubba's in the wall, it's a storyline, to say the least.
Well, another guy that ended up in the wall, Cole Butcher from the lead.
Oh
He
yeah, that was
He blew it right
unfortunate.
front. That was a hard lick.
Yeah,
He hit,
that coming right out of 4 and just
he hit that sucker pretty hard.
yeah.
Yeah, it was almost Kaz Grall like in practice. Butcher, he comes off, you get a little wiggle. Luckily, he was able to when he came off for the little wiggle. He Butcher just smacked the right side, but Kaz Grall when he got loose, it was the little wiggle and
Yeah.
goes into the wall. But yeah, obviously that was Butcher's been solid to start the year and
Mhm.
I
running
mean,
up.
that
That was brutal.
that took out two really good guys right out of that race pretty early on.
Yeah.
Let's see. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah. So and then Sean Higurani too. He was involved with Pollard to get tangled up in the wall. So yeah, it takes out another good car. And then Matt Craig too, running up front all race, but he had some gremlins in that car.
Yeah, that looks like he just lost power. They just kind of all of a sudden they were getting ready to go, and that car just kind of rolled to a stop. So another bog catches the 54. So
Yeah, I was running ended up going a couple laps down. Um, Otherwise, it ended up being Stephen Nasse pulling off the win in that one, which he sounded like he wasn't feeling too good in that car either.
he, yeah, they interviewed him. He said stomach wasn't feeling too good after he drank too much water under that red. Um, and he puked in the car. He said, "I'll need a couple of rags when I get out." And before they took pictures, he went and changed his fire suit and he put the black one on.
Sure.
So yeah, but he mustered his way to win. They were racing hard. Him and Roderick, they went at it.
And them two always race pretty good too.
Yeah,
And Roderick's always hungry for a win, especially getting hopped back in the super late models. So
yeah,
um
for sure.
yeah, otherwise Dawson Sutton, Jake Finch, and Michael Hyde rounded up your top five. Jake Garcia, Jeremy Doss, Connor Kresick, Dustin Smith, and Jacob Gomes were your top 10 in that
Mhm.
one. Um, let's talk about night two a little bit at Mobile because that one got very interesting. Um, I was
Oh,
able to tune in for that one to watch the whole race there. Really good race, like we talked about. Bubba was in Tony Elrod's car, ran pretty good, started up kind of middle of the pack. Um, he was just minding his own, keeping out of trouble, and the guys were really running good. Um, it was a lot of back and forth for the first 80 laps. There was a halfway break, just because of the competition caution. They ran 50 straight laps. It was caution free up until about lap 80, lap 85, and that's when guys started getting at it. But like I said, you had, I mean, damn near everybody was fighting for lead. Steven Nasse was in the lead. Van Meter was in the lead at one point. Pollard was in the lead. That Jake Finch was in the lead. I mean, it's just they were back and forth. Jeremy Doss was coming through the field. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, they were fighting pretty good, and then once there one caution came out, the rest of them came out. They just kept getting into each other.
well, that was the old caution breeds caution scenario, and I don't know if it was just the track or the way the guys were racing, but it was just like you get a couple guys together, they run off for the lead, and the next thing you know, either the leader or the front two cars get turned around and rack them up and do it again. Send those two to the back, and then the next two would do it. It was just
Yep.
the guys just couldn't stay off of each other, unfortunately. And I don't. That was just maybe it's a product of that racetrack. I don't know.
I mean, a lot of them were just slight touches too. It's not like they were hard nudges. They were all just very slight coming off of the corner. Just, maybe the guy checks up because he was loose in front of him and just tapped him in the rear or yeah, whatever it was. But I mean, Dawson Nasse got into it there, and then Dawson O'Kresick got into it. Jake Finch and Pollard got into it. I mean, they just, yeah, like you were saying, they just couldn't stop getting into each other. Really, the only ones that got hurt out of it were Doss and O'Kresick in their wreck in turn four, and then Nasse couldn't get it out of the backstretch.
Yeah,
Which he looked like he was about to throw something at somebody.
yeah, he was not a happy camper, that's for sure.
But yeah, Dawson O'Kresick, they talked. It seemed like they were on good terms, but they talked a little bit as well. Um, obviously with Okresak climbing Doss's car, but when they finally did get going again, they did round it down to the end of the race and got a hell of a finish out of it too. I don't know if you guys saw any replays about the finish, but photo finish coming to the line, 2 thousandths of a second. Cole Butcher edges Jake Finch for the win.
Can't ask much more than that. You got cars
No.
running side by side, and it's all about who can throttle up first and that just get that baby stuck to the racetrack. So, his the hell of a finish. I mean, you look at the picture and it's like, depending on the angle you look at, it could be somebody else that you got as your winner.
Yep. You saw that photo about uh uh Bruce Noodleman, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that was the good one.
I mean, that showed perfectly what it was. I was watching the replay for like they had the track action, like the on track camera, and I saw somebody's light bulb go off right as they were crossing the line. I'm like, I want to see that photo, and sure enough, there it was. So, no, that
Yeah,
was good race.
epic finish.
Epic finish. Yep, absolutely. So, otherwise, just good super late model racing, other than maybe the couple of guys getting into it. But no, can't complain about a whole lot from that one. So, any final thoughts here before we touch on a couple other races and a couple topics that came up over the weekend?
Oh, good storylines. You hate that guys end up with torn up race cars. You never want to see that just because, especially on a weekend like this where you got to go back to back nights.
Yeah.
You hate to see a guy lose a car like Pollard did, or some of these other guys that struggled. It just you hate to see that happen just because you want those guys to be able to run and finish all the laps. But at the end of the day, that's the unfortunate circumstance of racing is you might
Yeah.
just be at the wrong place at the wrong time, and that can be your weekend, unfortunately.
No, like you said, good hard late model race and a lot of big names in it that you love to see just racing it out. Like you said, good hard racing, clean, using each other up a little bit, but I'll be damned if we don't touch on it while we're on the late model scene. We threw out a brief video on it, a short last week, our tire change did, but how about the big
Oh
news
yeah.
of Flow Racing taking over the old Snowball Derby and 50K payday. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you two are happy about that.
yeah, obviously with some of these,
$75.
yeah, obviously a lot of these guys, the Nasty, Doss, Roderick, a lot of these guys that are racing these series right now, that's you'll see them come December at the Snowball Derby. So obviously pretty cool deal. And yeah, my Flow subscription renews on May 16th for $159. So
Well,
yeah,
just think
excited about that.
you're getting half of that paid for saving that money on that Snowball Derby on for the 3 day deal on Racing America.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously huge news. A lot of guys are pumped up about it. Just what Flow Racing does for the sport and everything. So again, super excited. And if Flow wants to sponsor us for as much plug-in as we do for them, that'd be fantastic. But yeah, super exciting news for the late model scene, and be looking forward to that weekend because that'll be Snowball Derby and Dome action. So
It's gonna be
You bet.
packed.
yeah,
You bet.
The double screens are gonna be going.
and maybe some sleepless nights.
Oh God.
Mhm.
We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Potentially a Guinness World
Yeesh.
Record for world's longest racing stream.
Oh man.
I'll
We'll
be
see.
watching.
All
Yeah.
right. Should we move on here?
Yeah. Cam, good catch though. Very good catch.
Yes, that was a good catch. Yes. I am excited for that though. That's gonna be cool.
Yeah.
I want to talk about some news that broke on the NASCAR side, particularly with the All-Star race that's coming up here. Larson spilled the beans on the pre-race show. Obviously, he's trying to pull the double this year with the Indy 500 and the Coke 600. There was a lot of questions about what's going to happen with the All-Star race and him practicing and qualifying for the All-Star race because qualifying for Indy is that same weekend as well, and around that and a little bit before that time. So Harvick or Larson spilled the news that Harvick will be on standby for him that weekend, which I think is really cool.
I mean, at the end of the day, if you're going to have somebody step in that car to give you the closest thing you can be to somebody that's been in that car, he's the guy to call.
Yep.
He's been around. He's been around racing forever. He ran that car for a handful of years before he retired. He's been still calling the broadcast from the booth, so he's at the track. So I mean, if you're going to do it, that's the guy to call.
And a guy that you don't have to worry about any sponsorship deals or manufacturer deals. He's literally a free agent.
Yeah. Yep. He's got nothing to worry about. I mean, even his KHI late model stocks are different. One's a Ford,
Yep.
one's a Toyota. Like
And he's even said he just swaps the nose of whoever's running.
He's just a racer, is
Yep.
what it comes down to. So I wouldn't mind to see him get in there. I would even dial him up on the old spotter stand just to listen to him again.
Yep. You and I don't know if you guys heard the comment, but he made a comment too of, when Mr. H calls and the first thing he says, "Hey, I need a favor from you." It's pretty hard to say no.
Yeah. Especially that guy.
No.
Hey, what are you up to on insert date?
I know you're gonna be there.
Yeah, you're gonna be there. You want to drive a race car?
That fire suit's still probably sitting around too somewhere.
Oh, they'll get him a fresh one that'll match the car.
Oh yeah, they'll get him
That's
a nice,
the least
nice
of his
one.
worries.
Yeah, we're obviously a legend of the sport. And I think we can all say we're not surprised. Because when guys like him, legends of our sport, retire, we always say it won't be long. It's a Richie Bickle situation. It won't be long before they get the itch to get back in the car and turn some laps. So obviously not a full race for him, but
just enough to scratch the itch a little bit.
Yep, just enough to scratch the itch that you might see a Jimmy Johnson like schedule here, maybe years. Who knows? He finds a team that says, "Hey, we'll let you, we'll throw together 6 races for you this year if you can find a sponsor." So, yeah, not surprised that he's didn't take him long to say, "Yeah, if you need me to hop back in the car, I will."
Here's the other thing too. It's the All-Star race. There's no there's no points on the line. It's a fun race. So what the hell? You show up to the track. Yep, this is what we're gonna do. Hops in the car, runs some laps, says some things. All right, here you go.
Back to the booth.
Yep.
Well, and the thing about it is with him, you don't have to worry about going out there and junking a race car because he won't do that.
Exactly. Yep.
It's back to a scenario of he's been in this next gen car that you don't have to worry about. All right, who does Chevy have in the pipeline that we can stick in a cup car for the first time to go practice? Kyle Larson's car, who's probably going to be a favorite to win the race, and hope to God that they don't tear the damn thing up on a repaved track that no one has any data on.
Yeah, he stunk the show up last year.
Who
dominated it? Larson. He dominated that race last year.
Yeah,
stunk the show up.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. He's a Fields' favorites. You got to be awfully careful who you put in that car because that thing ain't going to be junk, and you got to be careful.
And especially again, like you were saying, with it being a repave too.
Huh.
I thought I heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in that tire test that they did, they gained a second, didn't they?
Yeah, I think everybody did across the boards. I know the trucks did for sure.
Yeah,
I think everybody did across the boards.
I think they were worried about because I think that we talked about this in the past as well. That I thought was it here that the pavement was coming up a little bit too, or was that just that?
Nope, that was there.
Okay,
because when they were qualifying for the Cars Tour and the Stars National Tour, they were having some guys
the old pavement, yes.
Yep, that they're having some stuff come up out of the asphalt.
So I mean, obviously it was due for a repave, but
Yeah.
And I
and
think
they
it
did.
was, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and they also discovered the Moonshine Cavern, but
And I
Mhm.
was gonna say, the other thing too, I'm pretty sure a little experiment with the tire situation there. I believe they get their Goodyear's giving them two compounds for the
yep.
race. Everybody's got to start on one compound, and then you got the old experimental that you can throw on.
It's
Uh,
isn't it the rain compound, but in a slick tire?
Correct. It's yep. Yep.
Oh, baby. It'll be Bristol 2.0.
so yeah, that's obviously something cool. That'll be a storyline to watch, obviously. With what we've seen so far this year with tires and guys and their voices making their voices heard on what to do and the
We don't,
tires and everything. That'll be cool. Just
yeah,
to
we don't know
see,
what the hell
what
he's doing.
happens. Who's going to be the first one to go to the experimental one and then either drive to the front or drive to the back and let everybody know.
But I think that adds to it. We talked about it
Yeah, no, I
for
love it.
what the hell race was it? Oh, it was Richmond. We talked about it for Richmond. Let the teams make the decision when they switch tires.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
And that's perfect.
yeah. This experimental thing, this ought to be good. Yeah,
It makes the All-Star race worth watching.
Yeah.
100%.
Yep. So no, I'm looking forward to it. So
Yeah,
but no, otherwise really cool news seeing Harvick get back in the car for even if it's for a little bit. Again, it'd be interesting to see what he could do in a Hendrick Cup car. So
yeah.
anything else on that before we talk about some technical inspection things?
No, we'll touch on that when we get to that point.
Yeah. So this is another one that I really want to talk about too, and I kind of want to get your guys' perspective just from like I would say from an outside perspective, because I know you guys don't necessarily watch IndyCar like I do. Um, but if you guys didn't know, uh, Team Penske got penalized last week after some things that they found at St. Petersburg, which was at big about a month ago, we'll say. Basically the gist of it was in the rule. So here's the rule. Uh, in the first two laps after a restart, teams are not allowed to use push to pass. They have a button in there that gives them extra horsepower for X amount of seconds. Uh, what happened was Team Penske and whatever code that they use in their cars for their steering wheels forgot to take the code out that eliminated their ability to use push to pass at St. Petersburg because of testing that they did earlier in the year. So it was found at where the hell was it at? It was found at some point in time. It got penalized for it, where the win and their third place podium finish were stripped, and then Willpower got penalized points as well. It was basically an oversight from the engineers. And IndyCar has changed their post race inspection. So my question to you guys is, what was just, based off that information, what's going through your mind as far as the penalty itself, the infraction, or the update and post race inspection?
I mean, first thought that comes to mind is I love seeing Penske get penalized. No, I'm kidding. I guess, we deal with that with similar situation. I guess here's my overall thought based on what you said. If the timeline really was a month difference between that, I would like to see that get cleaned up. Because we deal with this in a similar situation in NASCAR, Denny gets the win at Dover, but his car still has to, those cars still go through inspection
Yep.
and they have to pass post race tech. And if they don't, depending on the violation, you'll see similar situation, lose your position, make potential penalty, potential suspension, whatever. But typically we know within a week,
We
if something
typically know
happens
that
on
night.
Sunday, yeah, if something happens, we know they failed post race tech, and then we'll know later in the week what the ramifications are, suspension, penalty, whatever. So, which then but I'll be damned if I would be thrilled a month later. Um,
Oh,
that's even tougher to swallow.
Yeah, March 10th was that race. So a little over.
yeah. I think so when I think about this, and I guess kind of my initial reactions to it, and I would agree with Cam, is I think we have to figure out a way to expedite the process. And I'm sure they are. I'm sure they're looking at every possible
Mhm.
avenue with the update to the post-race inspection. Um, but I think, with the update in that post-race inspection, which I'm not entirely sure what that is, that may eliminate a lot of that right out of the gate. When they go through tech, that they might have a clear indicator when they go through tech post race that they might tell the team that night, but they might not make a statement until the next morning. Or maybe the next within a week, because maybe that car needs to go to R&D. Maybe they take that car and they go to R&D like some NASCARs do, where
Sure.
we're going to take them through tech. It maybe it passed, but we're going to draw you. Good, congratulations today. You got picked. Your car's going to R&D. And within a week, you're going to know before the next event. Um, but like I said, I don't know what the update in that post race tech is, but I think that's going to expedite a lot of Cam, what you just mentioned, the lengthiness of the return on checks, if you want to say
So
it that way.
so I looked at the article that came out. It was found during warm-up session at Long Beach is when they discovered it. So then there was the investigation afterwards and then after the investigation penalty came out. So
Got it.
clear that up.
But yeah, I think they both of those, and Cam, to your point, I think both of those things go hand in hand of updating your inspection process, but that will expedite the length of release of what that finds.
Yeah, and outside of that, I mean, I'm good with, penalty, losing points, whatever. We deal with the same situation in NASCAR. Obviously, earlier in the year it was Stuart Haas and Gregson and Priest that got hammered
Yep.
before a race even started. So yeah, all-star performance, baby. uh,
Jesus.
so no, I mean, as long as it is a clear violation of the rules, again, I'm good with penalty, suspension, loss of points, and just let's speed that process up so that we know within the next week or two.
So here's and these are kind of a couple parallels, and I think these are more worlds that we're more familiar with. Is another prime example of this type of thing would be your dirt late model tire testing. Same
Yep.
thing, I wish there was a way we could expedite that process to have those results within a week, and then we could make a decision where we're not coming out 3 weeks later going, we got to go back on points, revert positions, allot points to different drivers that we're now shuffling our points. Um, so that's a little bit quicker, but I mean, some of the other scenarios that we've even seen here in the Midwest, go back a year ago from almost this week, Frederickson with the intake, like,
Yep.
yeah, they got that one right away and they were able to make a decision. Now that might have been a little bit more obvious, or it just might have been a way different oversight in terms of what that was going on there with a late night motor change.
Yep.
Uh, but those are kind of two parallels, and I think more to that dirt conversation of that tire sample that gets taken, they cut it, they send it off to a lab, the lab sends back the results, then they can go ahead and publish those things. So kind of it's a parallel, I would say, with that dirt late model world more so than anything with the tire sample testing.
Yeah.
So again, same with that scenario. I wish we could expedite that process too. I wish there was a way we could do it on site.
Sure.
Then let's take that sample.
Let's
Let's
go to
go
the
to
tech shed.
yeah, let's go to the series hauler. They
Yep.
got Blue Ridge Labs, I think is who does their the testing. They're here. We're gonna do it. You're gonna walk out of here with a check or not.
Yep.
You know?
You're gonna know. We're gonna find out in the privacy of the trailer.
Yep. Yep. The 3 podium guys, you get to stand there and we're gonna watch. We're gonna watch your samples go through. All 3 guys get to stand there and watch. Here's the series official. Here's the sample tester, and we're gonna go from there.
Yep.
So I don't know. And maybe that isn't logical or even feasible. We don't know. And this could be the same scenario with the IndyCar thing. Maybe it's something they can't address at the track in tech, you know? We
Yep.
just don't know that. We don't have those answers.
So no, like I said, that came down over the weekend. That was a big shakeup for IndyCar. I just want to get your guys' thought on it, just because it's the technical inspection of it. Um, as far as the follow up on it from the weekend, Scott McLaughlin was one of those drivers that got penalized. He won this weekend, so he comes back and says, "Well, you're going to penalize me. I'm just going to go win and gain my points back." So,
Yep. The hell with you.
yep. Did you guys see the mannequin during that
That
race?
fell on the racetrack and then got hit. That thing
Did
just
I?
drops off and sticks
Yeah.
down and just boop, tops over.
Did I send you guys Scott McLaughlin sitting with the mannequin?
No.
Oh my God. So Scott McLaughlin after race said, had to beat the old girl even though she nearly ruined my race.
Oh my God.
With
Buddy.
the busted arm that got ran over.
That's great. Oh man.
And then I think his name is Townsend Bell, the announcer. He was doing some like Q&A stuff on his plane ride back. He had said something too, and his response was hilarious. I'm gonna see if I can find it here quick.
I couldn't
But
believe that. Must have come off of the bridge, I would assume.
yeah, yep.
Like a
You
foot
know,
overpass. I would assume that's where that came off of. Oh my God. But I just saw the video of that thing. It fall down. It like stood for a second, then it just flopped over.
Yeah. That's kind of reminiscent of the you guys remember the sandwich that fell off of the pagoda a couple years ago from one of the spotters? You heard
Negative.
that story? Oh man, somebody dropped one of their sandwiches because they were eating lunch like on top of the pagoda at Indy, and the spotter almost got kicked out because of the drop sandwich.
Hang on to your lunch, boys and girls.
Yeah, golly, I can't find the comment. I mean, either way, it was hilarious, but no, the IndyCar definitely was an interesting week. Obviously, as we inch closer to the Indy 500, um, obviously a lot of storylines as we keep going into it. Like we said, we talked about Larson trying to pull double duty here as well. I'm still trying to find that damn comic because it was just gold. It was perfect. I'll maybe have to try and find it again and send it to you guys later. But um, no, any other final thoughts here before we kind of dive into the NASCAR weekend at Dover?
No, let's talk our bread and butter here a little bit.
So before we dump into the Cup Series portion of it, I want to give a shout out to Connor Zilic, ARCA Series. He's he may be another guy we got to keep an eye out on. He kind of wins in everything he opts into. Rolex 24, he ran pretty good in the Truck Series. He's good in the late model, and obviously now he's won an ARCA Series, so
Yeah,
he might be a guy we have to watch out for.
for sure.
So otherwise, Ryan Truex goes back to back. He wins at Dover in the Xfinity Series. Carson Quaffle almost steals that one away as well.
He tried.
Me and my grandpa were talking about this. That car between Bubba Pollard and Carson Quaffle is what, top 6 in all 3 races?
Yep. Hasn't finished outside of the top 6. Because he
Not a
was
bad.
fourth at Martinsville, I believe.
Yeah, I think so. So
Fourth or
not a
fifth.
bad showing for Junior with a couple of them guys.
Yeah. It's one of two things. Well, Junior's obviously looking like a genius right now.
Yep.
Two, in a couple different fashions here. One, the guys he's putting in those cars. Two, the guys he's got around him to build those race cars.
Yep.
End of story. He's got the perfect storm.
Yeah.
He's
It's
got it.
also cool. I mean, obviously, I think we've talked about Carson Clawful probably being the next guy that steps up in that camp, but it's still good to see the late model guys come in and do good.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but yeah, like I said, Ryan Truex, he kind of takes that one away, goes back to back. I've always liked Truex. I think he's cool. Good to see him get a win.
On a limited schedule.
Kind of one of the guys that just has grinded his whole career to get where he's at.
Yeah,
So,
to be in good equipment.
yep, yep, absolutely.
On
So,
track for him too.
yes, yeah, so that goes a long way as well. So that leads us to the Cup race. So obviously everybody is keeping an eye on Truex Jr. to see if he can go back to back again this year. Um, so as we get into the race here, stage 1 and 2, pretty uneventful, but I think the lines were coming in too. Guys were kind of experimenting with lines around the track and seeing what they could get out of the cars and tire wear too, just kind of trying to manage that as well.
Yeah, just the track rubbered in really fast. It just took rubber. And listening to practice, that was one of their concerns. It was cool. The temperatures were way down. The speeds were way up. And they were nervous that some of those guys were having some cording issues, just like they did at Bristol. And I'm sitting there watching practice going, boy, we got a Bristol 2.0, but the sun came out, got a little heat and everything. That track took rubber and they just immediately were able to move around.
Kyle Busch made a comment that it almost felt like the rubber was sitting on top of the track rather than going into the track at one point in time too.
Yeah.
More in I think he said more in the exits coming out.
Yeah.
So, but no, Kyle Larson ended up winning stage 2. Truex won stage 1, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
But yeah, otherwise stage 1 and 2 kind of uneventful, just kind of guys riding it out, seeing what they got, feeling it out, taking advantage of some pit stops here and there. Stage 3 is, and just like it was last weekend, stage 3 is when stuff started to happen. And it started with Bubba, Bell, and Byron getting wrecked.
Yeah, that was a so I watched the video. Everyone was kind of after Zane Smith a little bit there that he hooked Bubba, but
That one
I don't
started
remember
earlier.
who was in car, but somebody got into him before he even had the chance to try to stay off of Bubba.
LaJoy's in car, if you didn't see it, going into 1 and 2. Zane Smith was on the bottom and Reddick took him 3 wide. And you can see Reddick get a little bit loose and run Zane up the track just a
Just
little bit.
the accordion
And
effect then.
yeah, the accord whatever effect. And then of course Reddick, the one that essentially caused the wreck because he sent him 3 wide, gets through unscathed. And yeah, Zane Smith had to get moved up just a little bit and obviously got into Bubba and took out Bubba and um
Just came down the
Bell and
track
Byron.
and for Bell and Byron, there's just nowhere to go.
Yeah.
So as they kept saying on the broadcast, it's a self-cleaning racetrack.
Yep.
Which seeing that, I wonder, Bubba said in his, post race interview, he's just going to be mature, not say anything, due to his experience. So I'm assuming he was insinuating that that happened due to Zane's inexperience, but be curious
But
to see how that,
as
I'd be curious to see how that competition meeting goes today when somebody shows the end car and says, okay, Tyler, did we really need to do this with 120 laps to go?
yep.
That ultimately took out your own teammate.
Just ultimately Bubba didn't know the replay and know the full circumstances.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, obviously I took out some hammers.
Gave Byron his first DNF on the year.
Yeah.
And he had just a weird race. Forget what happened. Issue on pit road.
Yes.
But that
I
was
don't
somebody
remember
who
what it
was
was.
slicing
Yeah.
and dicing up there
Car.
and finished second in the first stage. And then all of a sudden he was back in 18th and it was like he could not move.
Green flag pit stop. They let the jack down without having a right front on there. Let the jack
That's
down and the
right.
jack broke. And
Yep, that's
the
right.
car fell down on the concrete and they had to pick the car up off the concrete to get it back on the jack to put the tire on. Yeah, that was a green flag stop. That crushed his race. And as they would say, we won't say it on air, but when you're back with the squirrels, you know what happens.
Yeah.
That was correct.
Yep. They mentioned that during the broadcast too. It's
Go ahead.
I was gonna say no, they just mentioned that during broadcasts is when you're back with the squirrels.
Yep.
Yeah,
You know what happens. You said it once already.
Bubba said it too. He's like, "That's what happens when you're back with the squirrels." So obviously that's frustrating for him. 2 weeks in a row, two DNFs. He was involved in the Eric Jones wreck last week. So tough stretch for Bubba, but who's I just gonna bring up?
Bell, Byron, Zane, Reddick.
Drawing a blank, but I mean, if you want to talk about somebody who also is on a struggle bus or on the struggle bus is Christopher Bell.
Yeah, he's on what 6 races in a row, finishing outside the top 10 or something like that.
Yeah.
They were talking about his rough stretch that he's had lately.
And he's not on a good stretch, that's for sure.
But if we just want to spitball before I do have a message for the group today. Um, on the message board.
Oh yeah.
Oh
Just
God.
don't have it displayed. Um, I will say, here we go again. The team can't string it all together, and the woes continue for some guys. But Noah Gragson,
He keeps chipping away.
and
Yep.
that guy, I can't say anybody had that on their bingo card this year. That um, he's a okay. I will give you credit for it. He's the strongest car they have right now.
Absolutely.
And he was running in the top three there, and a bad restart got him back to, shuffle him back a little bit. But son of a gun, if that penalty, he didn't have that penalty, I would have the standings up right now.
I got it right now. He is 21st in points right now.
Yep,
Dude.
give him a few more weeks, and I mean,
You
that penalty, I think was it him or I think it was Priest sent him negative, but it sent Gregson back to 0. I'm pretty sure.
yeah. How many point do we remember how many points that was?
I'll look.
So I'm also looking at the standings here. So Briscoe is currently P12 in the points. Looking at kind of some stats here. Neither of them have any stage wins. They both have one DNF. They both have 4 top 10s. Gregson's got a top 5. And that's their only difference right now.
35 team assessed with the loss of 35 driver and owner points.
So he would be he'd be in P19 otherwise.
Oh. P19 is still the greater arrow than P21.
Correct. The really big difference is that Chase Briscoe's got more stage points right now than Gregson. So
yep, for sure.
But no, you bring up a great point of Gregson's again coming on to his own right now.
And it is shame on me for thinking, but I think of him, I think of him as a rookie, so to speak. But I keep forgetting. I mean, they hired him with, almost a year under his belt before his incident last year.
Yep.
So it's like you look at him and I keep thinking rookie, but I'm like, shit, he had, almost 3/4 of a year in last year. So he obviously when they hired him, he's knows how these cars handle, knows how they drive, and yeah, if the rumors around SHR come true, I think he's got himself
Safe.
Yeah.
if these if they are true and if these results keep he continues this run, yeah, he's got himself I think solidified in there. But
Can we
there's one other person I was going to bring up before I
So while you're thinking about it, can we talk about Ford's struggles here? Still don't have a win on the year.
Yeah, Ford's not. Now, last week was an anomaly. McDowell tried to block 19 lanes of traffic for what godforsaken reason we don't know. But and it's not like it doesn't appear that there's no rhyme or reason to which camps are running well in what week. Some run real well at one place, the next runs really well at the next one, and it's just like not like this one. SHR is the Ford camp of the week.
Yep. Blaney's the top Ford right now in the point standings.
Right.
But
there's no rhyme or reason to stuff connecting. It's like they're all over the place.
Yeah.
It's like what are we doing? That's just my initial reaction to Ford. Is I get it. Ford, they got a different nose on that car, but my golly,
Toyota's not struggling.
Correct. Toyota's got it figured out. I don't know. I don't know.
Are we starting hitting the concerned button with Ford?
Oh, the concern button is hit. We just haven't quite got to
The
the
panic
panic.
button?
We're like
Yeah.
here when that dial starts to go like this, then
Sure.
we've got a problem.
Sure.
That's I don't know. To me, it doesn't the whole thing. There's no algorithm. There's no rhyme or reason for what's going
Yeah.
on. I don't know. Yeah.
Otherwise, getting back to the race here, after we got things sorted out, it was a long run there to the end of the race. And green flag pit stops had a little bit to do with it and kind of when guys were pitting. But otherwise, it pretty much came down to Hamlin, Larson, and Truex there at the end. Truex kind of fell off a little bit. Larson was trying to catch Hamlin, but ultimately Hamlin ends up winning that race, kind of using the aero advantage to keep his lead there because Larson was coming. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, and that's part of this new car. That aero dependency is so big. So when you're out front, you have that advantage and have the ability to be able to move around.
Oh
boy.
God, here we go. You gotta tilt it down a little bit.
There we
it
go.
went. Just
right
went.
there.
As much air block. Okay, so those that are listening, as much air blocking as we're doing, let's race it or first out the rear camera.
All right, we got it.
You're good.
Get
Yep.
it. Where did you come up with this shit?
I wrote that one as we were starting the episode.
Nice.
That was a good one.
That was good. Yeah, I can applaud that.
No, I just think because obviously Dover, to your echoing to your guys' points during the race, I just felt like you had to get spots on the restart. After that, like there wasn't a ton of moving and shaking. Like as soon as cars got 5 laps into a run, it's like guys, you basically settled in and there
You could
really was no moving and shaking.
You could experiment with lines, but if somebody ran your line, you were screwed.
Correct.
Yeah, for sure.
And that takes, to that point, it's like I was dancing with Joey Logano in my lineup, and it was like, or maybe Carolyn wasn't. It was like he was like 15th, and it was like him or Gregson, and I'm like, well, I would go Logano just based on experience and
Yep.
whatever. And I'm like, it's 15th, it's one pit stop or one long run, and he'll do some moving and shaking.
Yep.
And it just was stuck, and I felt like that was the majority. Like Byron, once he had his mishap and he got back in the 15 to 18 range, like he was stuck, and it just either had to play a strategy or you had to get him on the restart. And I felt like if he didn't, have one of those go your way, then it was,
What you got is what you got.
yeah, you're stuck, and maybe lap traffic will, would help you out. But like you said, the Larson and Hamlin deal towards the end there, it was Larson could, run a different line and get to him, but as soon as Denny figured it out and was driving out his rear camera, it takes one corner for him to run the same line and put some air in his nose, and he's
Yeah.
stretches it out another half second. So I
Larson
don't know.
Larson made a comment. I want to get your thoughts real quick. Larson made a comment about getting rid of the cameras and maybe that'll help. Do you think it'll help? Because I think you still have the rear view mirror.
The mirror, yeah. I think the camera adds an element to it that makes it more exaggerated. It
Sure.
puts it it puts it a little bit more in the driver's hands, or let me take that back. It puts it a little bit more in the spotter's hands to, hey, last lap he was at the
Sure.
bottom on 2 and 3 and 4 and high in 1 and 2, and you can flip flop that and it completely screws it up where I just think that camera just magnifies things a little bit more in the background, and maybe I'm drastically wrong. I don't know, but I think we need to minimize that to a certain degree too.
Sure.
I guess I don't know where my I think the having the camera is magnifies, some of these passing issues that we're having. But again, these spotters they got on top of the stand, these guys are world class at what they do.
Oh,
So even if they don't have that camera, I mean,
they're gonna get the same
they're get
information
they're getting the same
regardless.
exact information. If they're not seeing it with their own eyes, they're getting it
Yeah.
in their ear. Hey,
Sure.
he's running the lane higher in 3 and 4, and he's running the bottom in 1 and 2. I mean, they're getting all that information, but like you said, I think the backup camera gets magnified, and I don't know if they kind of want to. You got to blame something. Well, what's the easiest thing you can blame? Well, this new camera that
The
we put
car.
in. So,
Sure.
Yeah.
but speaking of spotter and um, driver relations, there, old Alex Bowman and his spotter.
Kevin Hamlin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's no, sometimes you need either it's the crew chief or that spotter just kind of put you in your place a little bit.
Yeah. A little boot in the ass, one might say.
Yeah.
Well, it was back and forth, which I don't know what your guys' take on it was. Obviously, Bowman, it was the 3 wide on pit road, and he was going to get squeezed, so he just backed out.
Which I think is a smart play.
Correct. Live to fight another day.
Yep.
And then he says, well, thanks, 5 team, some sarcasm. And Hamlin gave it right back to him and said, nobody's going to pull over for you. You got to go take this mother.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then he fires back, just let me drive the car. But I don't know. That's stuff like that's super intriguing when, a casual fan says, yeah, they're just going, you want to get to like 300 and 400 level NASCAR, you fire up the spotter or the scanner and you start
Yep.
listening. Then you can get
You hear some
fun
stuff
stuff.
that you don't always hear.
Bingo.
Well, in Eric Jones,
Oh yeah. And that's obviously the bad side of that. But
he said they asked him, obviously being out, and he was at the track and on the box for the 43 team. They asked him, what are you observing from the box? And he said, the amount of shit people talk, I did not
Yep.
realize. He said about each other, about
yeah.
different teams, about different manufacturers. He said, I didn't realize how much. So I don't know. It's an interesting aspect of racing that, not a ton of people always see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another
So
fantastic $30 investment.
got that right. So when it comes down to it, like we said, Hamlin ends up winning that one. Larson was second, Truex third, Kyle Busch fourth, Chase Elliott fifth, Gragson sixth, Blaney seventh, Bowman eighth, Daniel Hemrick ninth, and Ty Gibbs 10th. out of that one. We got to bring in Jeff Gluck here as always. Got to bring in the poll. As of the beginning of this session here, it was at 21, just a little over 2,100 votes. 60% good, 40% bad. I do have to see if old Carson Holstevar put in his comment here as well. Yes, he did. So he says, "Hi Jeff, longtime commentator here, or commenter here. I would really appreciate you turning the dirty air down next time. It was really bothersome when trying to enjoy a rubbered experience. Pit penalties really aren't necessary either. Hope you can accommodate before we plan to return. Thanks." So he was having a little fun at some of his expense, but he talked about obviously out of this a little bit about the dirty air. But he enjoyed a rubbered up track as well, was the gist of it.
For sure. I voted yes.
I
I
actually
didn't-
haven't voted yet.
I voted yes as well. I mean,
Three Stones Pit Crew voted yes too.
Oh, that makes it 4 then. 4 for 4.
So
I think it's just we enjoy strategy races a little bit.
yeah,
You got to play
I don't
from a
want-
different
I don't-
angle, and
I don't want it all the time, but every once in a while, it's a real good change of pace.
yep, for sure. So, any other thoughts here on Dover before we kind of look forward to the upcoming weekend here?
No, it was good. I enjoyed it.
no, like you said, fun race. Wish guys would have been able to move a little bit more, but when you don't have the moving and shaking, you at least got a wide range of strategies out there. Guys short pitting, guys running it as long as they can, and paying off for Hemrick, somebody that's
Needs a good run.
needs a good run and typically not, you know, a top 10 car. So no, enjoy the strategy. See who's playing chess when everybody else is playing checkers and if it'll pay off. So no, enjoyed the race.
So obviously there's a lot of racing this weekend. It's we could throw a dart at a dartboard as far as what's going on this weekend. So we'll just kind of hammer in on a handful of races here. Kellen, we'll start with you. What's on your agenda for the weekend?
Yeah, so we got the Cup Series goes back to Kansas. Last year, 2023, Denny Hamlin was your winner. You had Hamlin, Larson, Byron, Bubba, Chastain, and Logano. Larson led the most laps at 85. But I think when it relates to us, the big news out of that one was Derek Kraus makes his Cup Series return for Colleague. So getting back in the 16, and he's gonna wheel a Cup car again. So this will be his first of back-to-back weeks in his limited structured schedule with the Colleague boys.
Pick 2 good weekends here too.
Yeah.
So no, that'd be cool. See what he could do there. Cam, you're obviously talking about some dirt late model racing, but you're getting away from Hunt the Front and Lucas Oil.
For sure. That if you're in the area, World Outlaw late models at Mississippi Thunder in Fountain City, Wisconsin. So big touring series coming to Wisconsin, about 25 minutes north of La Crosse. So in the southwest corner of Wisconsin. Big 3-night show, Dairyland Showdown, 3 nights of racing. And I believe I believe the first 2 nights are 7,000 win, and then Saturday's a hefty $35,000 payday. So
Yep.
obviously there'll be some big names there, gunning for big purse. But yeah, points update: B Shep, Chris Madden, Nick Hoffman, Cade Dillard, and Tyler Bruning. And then some other guys. Pierce working his way back in after the penalty. So it'll be interesting race. The top, I would say 8 or 9 guys, maybe 10 guys, all within 142 points. So early in the year, all within striking distance. And if you're in the great state of Wisconsin, fantastic opportunity to see a touring series put on a fantastic show.
I haven't made up my mind yet if I'm going down there yet. That might be a game time decision. where they go for that one or not. So we'll see. Um, Otherwise, the main event, at least for us this weekend, the Joe Shear Classic at Madison, myself and the Jackman will be at the race this weekend.
Yes, sir.
Um, I don't think the gas man has decided if he's going or not. Um, but ASA Midwest Tour race number 2, 15,000 to win for like I said, the Joe Shear Classic at Madison. Uh, something that'll hit close to your guys' heart. The Badgers marching band will be there this weekend.
Yes, sir.
Sure, they always put on a good show, so that should be pretty good.
Yeah.
Confirmed entries so far this weekend: Casey Johnson, Dalton Zier, Ty Majeski, Jeff Van Oudenhoven, Austin Nason, Riley Stenjum, and Ty Fredrickson. There's going to be a boatload of other guys, so keep an eye out for entry list this week. Points going into it: Ty Majeski, Alex Prunty, Luke Fenhouse, Max Kaler, DK, Derek Kraus. Obviously, he's going to drop after this weekend. Johnny DeAngelis, Levon Vandergeest, and Steve Apel. Truck Series, the Midwest Truck Series are going to be there as well for race number 2 on their season. Jacob Nottestad, Chester Ace, Miller, Mueller, Knese, and Reichenberg are all going to be there as well. So keep an eye out later in this week for a race preview on that. But obviously, like I said, that'll be a good weekend for us. Kellen, obviously, I mentioned before, there's a ton of races going on this weekend. What else we got going on?
Yeah, so we have on the 3rd, you've got the Cars Tour Pro and late model stocks at Ace Speedway. We're the Outlaw Sprint Cars at Jacksonville Speedway. On the 1st, High Limit Midweek, 81 Speedway. Scrolling down a little further, what else we got here? Hunt the Front Super Dirt Series, Ultimate Motorsports Park on Friday night. They go to Lancaster Motor Speedway on Saturday night for 20 grand to win there. Power I Midgets, Lucas Oil, IRA Sprint Cars, Cedar Lake Speedway, Formula One, Miami, American Canadian Tour, Thunder Road International Speedway, USAC Silver Crown, Winchester. You want it, you got it. Lucas Oil Dirt Late Models, Florence. I mean, whatever you want to watch, you got it. Sprint cars, late models, asphalt, dirt, midgets. There's racing galore. Find your favorites.
Eldora's going
Dial
to
it
be a
up
good show.
for sure. Absolutely.
So, no, tons of great racing going on this weekend. Um, Before we do race picks here for Kansas, obviously we got to give our fantasy recaps here. And Cam, you're finally getting yourself up there. You had yourself a win this week on the fantasy.
We're still not where we want to be. But I just gotta slowly but surely chip away. Scary part is I got the girls that are only 100 points. So I'm
But I
literally
mentioned,
I'm literally one bad week away from being last of all participants. So
but
um
you're slowly gaining on Dietz and third place there too. You're only what 19, 18 points behind him.
yeah. So obviously I'm in a balancing act. Do I go right now and gain a couple spots, or do I let do I let the ladies catch me? So um I don't know. I used some hammers this past weekend. Just didn't mess around. So we'll see.
Otherwise, looking at the overall recap here, I am in the lead still. I extended my lead over Kellen as well, who's in second place. Dietz in third. Like we said, Cam, you're in fourth. The girls are catching you. Sophie's pit picks in fifth. Gasman, the ladies in sixth, and then Kurt Perstands runs out the top 7 there. Race picks wise, we had quite a bit of a shakeup there as well. You guys did not have a great week when it came to your race picks. You got Kellen, you got 7 points. Cam, you got 3 points. I got 51 and leapfrog to both of yous to take the lead.
Oh, well, we're gonna fix that this week. So let's make some pit race picks.
So we're looking at Kansas here this weekend. So Cam, you had the worst one in taking Bell last week, so you get to go first this weekend.
Take Kyle Larson.
Kellen, you are up next.
I'll take Tyler Reddick. 2311's won 2 of the last 3 races here at Kansas.
Toyota is going to be really good here.
Not as good as Kyle Larson.
You know what? I got some room to spare. I think he'll do good either way.
Blaney.
No, I'm going to go stick in the Toyota camp. A guy that we said is going to get a win this year. Give me Ty Gibbs.
Oh. Yeah, Cam's got room to spare. We'll check again next week on next week's podcast.
I'm going to come
But
back
he's
to bite me
scratching his
here.
head going, I'm back in third.
Yep.
Check again next week after he blows a right front on lap 6.
Hey, I'm staying away from the paralysis by analysis here. So
Picking with his heart.
you goddamn right I am.
Uh,
You're goddamn right I am. So
yeah,
cool. No, this is a great week of racing, but I think we got an even better weekend of racing coming up here.
absolutely.
I feel like we're gonna have a lot to talk about here next
Absolutely.
weekend. So any final thoughts here, fellas, before we sign off here for the night?
No, excited. Ready to get back to the track. Got a weekend off here. That's can't have that.
Yep. I'll see you on Sunday for sure.
Yeah, that'd be a big one.
Cam, we'll have to get you out to the racetrack here at some point in time again.
Yeah, I will be celebrating Carolyn's birthday on Sunday.
Yeah, it's pretty important.
Pretty important day. As they always say, happy wife, happy life. So
That's
I'll
you use
celebrate
that
Cinco de Mayo too. So grab a margarita.
you keep that one stashed away so you can play that card later in the year.
Yeah. So but no, yeah, full tank of gas. We're definitely into racing season.
Yeah, so obviously keep an eye out on the socials as we post some updates or keep an eye on the racing that's going on this weekend. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, obviously. If you're especially on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed, hit that bell so you know when our race previews are coming out, when the episodes are coming out. Shorts are even out as well. So keep an eye out for all that jazz. Always appreciate the subscriptions and any of the feedback that you have. Don't forget to make your race picks for any of the races that are going on this weekend as well. Like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you get out to your local short track as everybody's pretty much up and running this year. And we'll see you all next week for episode number 33.